It only takes about... The first three funnels, you can see how they are connected down below to the boilers. They take the smoke and give it a place to go. Then, just like we talked about earlier, that fourth funnel isn't really needed. However, it still provided some ventilation to the decks below. The first class passengers had two sets of stairs, the forward grand staircase and the aft grand staircase. The forward grand staircase went all the way down to E deck. Directly in front of it is the three elevators. Then we have the aft grand staircase over here, which doesn't go down quite as far, only down to C deck. Then here we have the staircases for the second class passengers. And then the staircase for the third class passengers in the very back of the ship. This was all close to the steering machinery. This is why third class was sometimes referred to as steerage passengers. So cabins for the third class passengers are here towards the lower decks, and here's where the second class passengers are, and the first class passengers got to stay on the highest decks and have some of the best views. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the layout of the ship. Now let's go through each deck, starting with the boat deck. here. Then we have the other well deck, and the third class smoke room, the third class general room, and then the third class stairs which lead to the decks down below. In the very back, this holds the steering gear, and then the 2 steering engines. These engines were used to move the gear, which then rotates the ship's rudder directly below. The steering engines are controlled by the wheels that we saw earlier on the bridge. On occasion, they can also use a third wheel on the docking bridge up above. So that was C deck. Now let's move on down below to D deck, also known as the saloon deck. Up at the front, you have the rooms for the firemen. These men worked with the boilers at the very bottom of the ship. This is the firemen's stairs. These extend all the way to the bottom of the ship. And the mailroom is here. Again, more space for machinery here and the engines. Refrigerated cargo and other food at the back. And a tiny space here for even more cargo. Lots of cargo, alright. This is the tank top, the lowest level on the Titanic. At the front of the ship is carnival rides for the kids. Just kidding. There's more cargo here. Perfect space for this kind of thing. The fireman's stairs lead all the way down here. This is the fireman's passage. It allowed direct access over to the boiler rooms. Okay, this is where things start to get exciting. The boilers. These burn coal to then generate steam for the ship's engines. The Titanic has 6 boiler rooms, so boiler room 1, boiler room 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6. 29 boilers in total. Boiler room 1 has 5 single-ended boilers. This means you can only put coal into one side of the boiler. Boiler room 2 through 6 has double-ended boilers, so coal can go into both sides of the boiler. Coal bunkers are placed between each boiler room, so these were filled with coal before they left for their journey. Working in the boiler rooms was very difficult. It was hot and humid, and work was extremely tiring. The firemen were the crew members who had the job of keeping these boilers fed with coal. Let's take a look inside one of these boilers. The coal goes in through here, and the fire will heat the water, which will generate steam. This will also produce smoke that travels through the smoke tubes and then up through the boiler exhaust uptakes, which then goes to one of the first 3 of the funnels. The steam that gets produced will travel through the pipes towards the back of the ship. It takes as much as 24 hours to start producing steam, so they have to start preparing long before the ship will leave the harbor. This steam makes it all the way to the engine room. Inside of this room are 2 reciprocating steam engines. These engines were 3 stories tall. Even by today's standards, that's enormous. Inside of each engine there are 4 cylinders. Inside of each cylinder is a piston. The steam comes in and pushes the piston up and then down. This happens over and over. All 4 cylinders working together turn the shaft down below. Each shaft goes out through the back of the ship and connects to the propellers. Don't forget, there's a 3rd propeller blade out the middle, but this one is powered by a different engine. Leftover steam from the reciprocating engines goes to the next room, which has the low-pressure turbine engine. The steam is used to turn the center shaft, which then turns the 3rd propeller blade out the back. So the outside propeller blades are powered by the reciprocating steam engines, and the center propeller is powered by the low-pressure turbine engine. The leftover steam from the turbine engine goes to the condensers. This turns the steam into water again, where it can then be recycled back to the boilers. Fresh water was stored in large tanks here. This could be used as drinking water throughout the ship. This is the electric engine room. There are 4 electric engines that use steam to make electricity for the entire ship. There were also 2 backup engines behind here. On the night the Titanic sank, this area of the ship didn't take on water until the very end. The electricians kept these motors running as long as possible to keep the lights on. They were heroes. The Titanic had a system of 15 watertight bulkheads, which made 16 watertight compartments. If the ship was damaged and water started filling one of these compartments, it shouldn't spill over into any of the others, or at least that's the idea. The watertight bulkheads separate the lower decks on the Titanic. For example, there are watertight bulkheads between every coal bunker. But the crew members need to be able to get through these bulkheads. That's why they used watertight doors. Normally they remained open, but in an emergency they could be closed in just a few seconds. These watertight compartments were originally said to have made the ship unsinkable. When the Titanic hit the iceberg, it scraped along the starboard side of the ship. Many of the forward compartments started flooding. It proved to be too much, and the Titanic was doomed to sink.